It has been a minute, but we're back. Welcome back to What's Next with Lacey. I am so happy to be back. It has been a couple months since I've been able to record, since I've been able to put out an episode, which is such a bummer, but you know, sometimes your full-time job does get in the way. One day, maybe, if we get enough people listening, this can be my full-time job. Manifesting that right now. Anyway, I'm so excited to be back. I'm so excited for this episode. I have new cover art. I have a new Substack that I'm starting. The first post is out. Take a read, have a read, do a read, read it. That's the most important part. I'm still figuring out that side of things, but I just wanted a place to write, a place to vent, a place to express some thoughts that I don't get to in the pod. So lots of new things this week. Very, very fun and excited for all that it will bring. This week on the pod, I am introducing you to the wonderful Britt, who is currently working as a partner manager for emerging sales at Walmart Connect. If that sounded incredibly confusing to you, don't worry, it did to me as well. But that is why we have this pod, and that is why I have Britt on the podcast, so that she can tell us what that means, what she does, how she got there, all the good, fun questions. There's so much useful information and advice in this episode, so I don't want to go too much into it now, and I will let the episode speak for itself. So definitely want to make sure that you listen all the way through. There is so much to learn. You seriously won't want to miss a minute. Anyway, excited for what's next, and I hope you enjoy. Britt, welcome to What's Next. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm so happy to be here. I've been waiting for this moment.
Your moment in the spotlight, kind of, I guess.
It's an honor to be on the podcast.
My gosh, no, it is an honor to have you. I really am so excited because I feel like your career journey is kind of why I have this podcast, because I'm not going to lie, when I was doing my research on you, I was like, I don't know what any of this means.
Oh, perfect. I can tell you all about it.
Ideal. That's what I need, because I was like, I don't know what these titles mean. Like, I'm also not going to lie, not entirely sure what industry you're in.
Yeah. I should probably go on my LinkedIn and actually see like what I've done.
No.
Where have I worked?
People who like are in your industry know, but I was like, I don't know.
That is why
I have this pod. So I'm very excited to dive in on all of that.
Yes, I'm happy to explain all and everything. And I probably don't have the answers to all of it, as I am still learning. But yes, the media world is, I think, very confusing if you're not working in it. So, and if you are, maybe that person will like pick up on like the lingo that I'll throw at you maybe. But yeah, happy to dive into all of that.
Amazing. So actually, on that note, why don't we start with, how would you describe your current job to someone who like is like me and knows nothing?
So right now I work in retail media sales. And if I'm explaining that to my mom, for example, because she has no idea what that means, I tell her that it's my job to help promote brands on, I work for Walmart, walmart.com, and get people to see their ads and buy their products over other brands. So it's really just getting brands to be more visible online and get people to, for one, notice them and move them to potentially buy those brands. So I'm in like the retail media space, which is a little different than like larger advertising, but maybe that's like a good way to put it, where I want you to see my brand and I want you to buy my brand.
Do you have like a specific type of clientele that you're working with? Yes, or is it like all retail?
I do. So I work on an emerging sales team, which is basically Walmart deems emerging brands as a lot of like up and coming brands who, you know, might not have, I would say, like the stakeholder, the way that, like, for example, I work on food, and some of the brands I work with are in the chocolate space. And when you think of a brand like, I'm going to name some names, like Hershey's, they've got like a pretty big brand awareness. People know Hershey's, they know Reese's, they know Oreo, all those different chocolate candy brands. I work with some smaller guys who are newer to the industry and want to stack up to a Hershey's, but don't really know how to get there. And they're saying, hey, Brittany, can you help me? We have money we want to spend. Where do we start? And then that's kind of where I put like a plan of attack together, a strategy, and help them really grow their brand presence on Walmart and then get people to buy their product over a competitor like Hershey's. That's just one small example.
No, that's a great example. So where are these adverts going? Are they, and does Walmart want them to buy this product through Walmart? Is that like what they get out of this?
So this is like the funny thing with the media industry. There's a lot of brands that have separate buckets for how they're spending their budgets throughout the year. Some brands want to throw it into all TV, drive mass awareness, because that's like the best way to reach people who aren't, cord cutting now. You can still do like connected TV through like apps if you're watching on a Peacock or a Paramount. And then within retail media, we want customers to see ads while they're already in the shopping mindset. So some people who are going to a Walmart.com, or think about like an Amazon or a Target, if you're on those websites already, you're going to buy something likely. So we try to get customers while they're already on the site. So we'll do advertising there, but we also have the ability to run on social and then drive back to Walmart, run some TV ads, and then, that's more awareness, but try to get customers back to Walmart for like a QR code or something. So there's like a lot of different avenues that you can do, but I'm more focused on, if you're already on Walmart.com, let me try to get you to buy your products while you're there, because I know you're in the mindset to buy something.
I will say I am the number one person who gets swayed by those ads. I'm like, that's delicious. I will definitely add to cart.
Well, food is good because it's, for one, like a fun industry. A lot of brands want to do fun, cool advertising, splashy colors and videos and stuff. But most of the times when you like work in the industry, you're like, I hate ads. I don't want to see ads, because we know what brands are trying to do and they're just trying to get us there, buy their stuff. And sometimes nowadays you go on social media, you try to watch TV, you try to do anything in life, and there's just ads thrown at you everywhere you look. Especially in New York, you walk by a billboard 24/7. It's insane. But all of that is like paid through a brand, and they're just trying to like get people to notice them, and then for some brands buy their stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you if you bought anything. TikTok too.
Totally. And I totally understand why companies spend so much money on this, because, just like my small little podcast trying to get people to listen, like it takes so much work. Yeah. I can imagine that it's so important to like spend all this money. So as much as I get sometimes annoyed by ads, I do fundamentally understand.
There's a purpose behind them, and the goal of a brand too is to also find a very specific audience, so that they don't want to also waste their money on somebody who's not going to actually care about them or buy them. But it's also too, you don't know until you try. So sometimes you cast a wide net. We call it like the spray and pray method, which I don't know if that's appropriate, but you just throw all your money somewhere and then you try to figure out what sticks kind of, and then move from there. But it's a fun industry to work in. And I've been in it since I graduated college. So I'm like still learning the ropes, but I've learned a lot and I love it.
You are currently a partner manager for emerging sales.
Yeah.
What is a partner manager? Have you like grown into this position, and where do you go from here? Yeah.
So a partner manager is really just like a fancy way of saying I'm your sales contact. I'm your sales representative. I am the manager of your business, and I am partnering with whatever brand I'm working with to help manage and grow their business. So it's some like fancy term. I don't know who came up with it, but I'm really just like a salesperson. And I didn't always want to be in sales, actually. I started off working more, I would say, on like the insides of media advertising. I think the role that I had before this, I was an account manager, which an account manager is just somebody who manages whatever account they're on. So it's a little bit more internal facing, where the sales role is definitely you're meeting with clients left and right. Sometimes I'll have 10 to 15 meetings a week just with a bunch of different brands that I'm working on, trying to get FaceTime with these brands to talk about that or talk to them, learn more about them, and then help them achieve their business goals with Walmart. But then before that, and I've only been in this role for 6 months, maybe going on 7. I was more internal facing at my company that I'm at now. I was scared to death to go into sales. I didn't want to talk to people. I just wanted to do my job, I worked on like creative stuff for brands. I worked on building out media campaigns with like different types of audiences that we wanted to go after, building out like social campaigns, a bunch of different, more on like the planning side. And that's how my job was basically from when I graduated college back in 2017 up until the end of 2024. And I realized that I liked talking to clients after like a certain extent. You can make a lot more money when you work in sales, which if you live in New York, you got to like grind if you want to survive here.
That's for sure.
But it was just like an opportunity that came to me where a lot of the salespeople I worked with were like, you're already doing the job of a salesperson. You're just not in that actual role. So I was always scared to death to do it because I was scared to work on a commission. Didn't really know if I'd be good at it, but made that leap of faith. Joined my emerging sales team at Walmart. Now I really love it. It's more challenging. It's definitely harder, but it's very rewarding. And I like that I get to work with so many different brands and build those relationships with them.
So it's clearly like a very people-oriented job. Like, so you mentioned most of your time in meetings and things like that. What are some of the aspects of the job that maybe people wouldn't expect for a sales role? So obviously, with my current role, I am trying to get these brands to spend money with us, but it's so much more than just making that sale. I have a lot of like back end work that I do with my clients that revolves around once I am able to get them set up with media and running on Walmart.com. That's also part of my job to manage those campaigns, make sure that they're operating correctly so that they're driving sales for the types of customers that they're trying to reach on the site. So between me being in meetings with clients, the back end piece of it is me looking in. We have tons of different dashboards that we use to look at campaign performance, find ways to tweak things so that we can help brands perform better. It's also like a very competitive market. So I look at a lot of like category insights with how other brands in the space are doing, really to help my brands like move the needle a little bit faster or be better, which maybe that is to be expected, but it's definitely it's a heavy piece of what I do outside of me just trying to get brands to spend more with me. I have to do a lot of work to prove out why they should. So that's like another big piece of the job that is sometimes like very draining because you can spend all day in 10 dashboards and it's very data heavy. And that's the beauty of Walmart is we're so data focused that we're going to drive results to prove that things work here. But it can be exhausting. And I'm sometimes still like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for AI to maybe take some of this off of my plate. But I don't want that to take my job away. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing what I have to do. Yeah, it's the fine balance of like, don't take my job, but help me, please.
Yeah.
Would you also say that your job is very like team oriented, or you mentioned you were working on commission. So is it like just you? Are you like, how does that work?
So I am the sole person responsible for, succeeding in my role with my clients, making sure that I hit, we call it like a quota, making sure that I hit my quota goals. But I do work on a larger team within. So I work in a specific category. One of them is candy. I also work on deli and bread. I have a team of other people who also work in the same category, and then a larger pod where we branch across shelf-stable foods, snacks and beverages. And I have a manager who's constantly checking in on me. We have one-on-ones every week. But from a larger team aspect, we're more so working together to cross knowledge and share information with each other. Again, going back to those category insights, sometimes somebody will find something that's relevant to a particular category and in sharing that information. Because at the end of the day too, while we each have our own individual goals we're trying to reach, our bosses need our larger group to reach that goal at the top. So it's very individual, but it's also like a lot of teamwork and sharing information and turning chairs 24/7, which is also why it's nice being in an office to just be like, hi, Kelly, like, have you experienced this issue before? Are you seeing this with your brands? Which is something I love about my job is it's very, very people oriented, as you had said. So it's not just the clients that we're talking to all day. It's the people that I work with. I'm just yapping all day.
Love. How do you find your clients? Like, are people bringing them to you? Is this like outreach you do?
Yeah, good question. So the team that I'm on has evolved a lot. It's only been in existence for maybe a year and a half or a little bit more. Do not quote me on that. My boss will be like, no, it's been exactly 19 months. I'm newer to the team, but it's been around for maybe a little under 2 years. And it used to be where we were trying to find leads. And still to this day, I think that's accepted. If you can, go on LinkedIn and try to find a brand that's, interested in trying to get into Walmart. It's very much since evolved because as I would say a global retail company, so many brands want to get in at Walmart. We don't really have to fish for those brands anymore. Companies, they're trying to get in with us. So it's definitely gotten a lot more efficient, I would say, where if somebody wanted to come and be on a shelf at Walmart or even just have their products available online, you can just search like walmart.com /something, and brands can submit to get into Walmart. And then those get filtered and they somehow filter down based on like category, which brands I would run with. So the brands I have been like given to me. They've been selected by, we have a bunch of back end ad operations people that manage all that. So luckily I've never had to fish for my clients, but I will say clients that are given to me don't always answer calls or emails. So I am then digging into LinkedIn, trying to find who the best contact would be on that brand to just talk and get to know them.
Wow, that's so interesting. With that all in mind, what do you think you do to make you successful at this job?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is you have to be confident. And that's something that I was so nervous about when I first started, because you do have to almost fake it till you make it. You have to go into the room. Actually, even before you meet with clients, you have to prepare for a call. You have to make sure you know the ins and outs of their business, how many sales they've driven at Walmart. You want to, do a little bit of not in industry searching just to kind of see what industry they sit in. You want to look up like more just about the brand, go on their website. And then when you do get on that call, you have to remember that you are the expert in the room. And so you want to own the room. You want to be confident in everything that you're telling these clients, because sometimes they don't even know what advertising is. They've never heard of it, or they don't want to bother with it because it's too confusing, or maybe it's going to be too expensive and it's not going to drive results. So I think that's something that is very make or break in the sales industry as a whole. No matter where you're working, you have to know that you are good at your job and you just have to believe in yourself and you will be fine. And you're not always going to get a happy client in the room who is agreeing with you. A lot of times I'm getting yelled at by clients. They're not happy, even with things I can't control, but it's still putting on a smile, putting my best foot forward and keeping a positive attitude, because that's really the only way that you're going to succeed or even just want to come back the next day, because that's half of my job is people just complaining to me, but I'm here to learn and to grow and to keep that positive mindset, because that's the only way I'm going to get better at my job too, is objection handling, I would call it.
That's hilarious. No, I think that's such an important piece of advice. And I think that can be honestly applicable to so many people in their jobs. Is just be confident. But yeah, I can imagine how that's so important for you to be able to make people happy.
It takes a lot of time. And even now, even when I was doing more behind the scenes stuff, when again, graduated college almost 10 years ago, I had to it was a lot of mental battle of just being like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And trying to get over the nerves and the anxiety. But the second you have one good call, you're on a high and you're like, I can do this again. I can do this again and again and again, which doesn't happen every day. But once you build up that confidence, and it's also a calm confidence, you start to then build that respect and that trust with your clients. And that goes such a long way with brands. So it's a work in progress, and not every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows. And sometimes I want to cry while I'm on calls, but that's the real reality of it. And you just have to kind of brush it off too, and not take things personally.
Yeah, that's huge. Not taking things personally from clients, I feel is the most important thing in client facing work, because these clients be saying some crazy stuff sometimes.
They're just, they're not always going to be happy. And there's also parts of their business that you can't actually influence or control, but you want to empathize with them and make them feel heard. And if that's what I can do, and I can't get anything out of a call, that's okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So then Walmart is obviously a big company. There's a lot of like factions in it. Do you like being at a big company? Does it feel like a big company? What's that like?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I've gotten to work kind of on, the bigger type of business like a Walmart, or the first job I actually had out of college was at a super, super small search agency in Philadelphia. And I remember when I was at that agency, I loved it because there was maybe 40 or 50 people that worked at that company. My team was even smaller. There was maybe like 10 of us. And we were all going in Monday to Friday. This was like before COVID. So I loved that aspect of, again, small circle. Everybody could turn to one another. We all knew what we were working on. I felt very comfortable with that team, but I did feel that growth was limited there. There was only so many ladders you could climb up because it was a smaller business. So if you were really trying to get promoted or even sometimes do more work, that opportunity wasn't there. And that wasn't a bad thing. There were some people that loved what they were working on, didn't want to do, not that they weren't trying to do more. They were just comfortable with where they were. And they were like, I can wait the long haul here to maybe get a promotion or move up. I was a little bit more antsy.
Yeah.
It was one of those things too, where, your first job out of college, you're probably not asking all the questions of what's the long-term career growth here? What are the opportunities? You're just like so happy to get a job and get a paycheck. So after about half a year, I was like, I gotta like figure something out. I'm already getting antsy. This isn't working. I worked at another company and then I came to Walmart, and Walmart at the time when I joined was not at all what it is today. I work in the Walmart Connect arm of Walmart as a whole, which is basically just the advertising in-house company for the like Walmart itself. There was maybe Walmart Connect was so tiny when I first started 3 years ago. It's exploded. It was the type of thing where you were doing the job of like 4 people. It was the wild, wild west. Anything goes. You just had to like survive the day. There is now so much structure within Walmart Connect as we have grown. And it's definitely overwhelming sometimes because it used to be, okay, a client asked if we could do something. I don't know, but let's just say we can and figure it out as we go. Let's just see what happens. Now you have to go through so many more jumps and hoops just to kind of get a yes or a no on such a simple ask or question. You got to go through so many different teams. Yeah. But I think a lot of that is necessary, as much as I hate saying that, because of how much we've grown. You can't really treat this business as the Wild West the way we used to, or you can't say yes to every single client. They've got to have boundaries on things. So I love how big we've gotten. There's so many different avenues that I could take with my career if I ever wanted to explore elsewhere, which is basically what I did with the sales team. I was nervous to do it. I explored it, and now I'm here and I love it. But it's definitely overwhelming sometimes in a good way. I just hope we can continue to grow and we don't like cap at one point. But as long as the demand is there for goods, people will come.
I guess on that note though, like given how much Walmart has grown, do you feel like now it's like more difficult to stand out, or because there's so many avenues you can go down, it's probably easier to get promoted and to grow? Like, what do you think there?
Yes, it is very competitive, which I joke around with some of the people that I started working with when I joined Walmart. And I say to them, I don't know if I would be able to get a job here if I was trying to do this now the way we did it a few years ago. The interview process, even for this role, you want to move internally, you still have to interview. You don't get an exception just because you're an internal employee. And so I had to approach it the same way that anyone would and do a lot of preparation. And if anything, sometimes you have to find ways to stand out more. Because within the industry I'm in, there's a lot of poaching that goes on, and we want to find people that work at other competitive brands who might have maybe a little bit more edge or have a lot of that experience already and can bring that to Walmart. So that was something I was also very nervous about in the interview process, where I didn't have a ton of a sales experience the way that other people from, other companies might. And now, so it's the same way. There's a lot more opportunity for career growth, where I'm very fortunate on the team that I'm on. They just rolled out senior partner manager roles, which, a few people on my team had just gotten promoted to that because they did such a good job. So there's room for a lot of internal growth. You just have to work really hard, because the people on my team that have gotten promotions in the past few months are some of the best people I know, and they're the people that I'm asking those harder questions to, asking for help, and getting their opinions on things. So there's opportunity there. It's just slim pickings sometimes, which is why a lot of other people also within the company will, they've done sales for a few years. They want to try something else out. There's other teams that they can explore and go through that process. But interviewing for this company is not for the faint of heart. I would say I was scared to death when I was doing my sales interview, but again, that's where the confidence comes in, and you have to really believe yourself, and then you'll make it through. So I think you got to fake it till you make it takes you places.
Can I ask what was so scary about it?
So for one, you do have to do pitching. You have to go in and do like a mock pitch. And for me, that wasn't the most nerve-wracking thing. I actually want to say it was interviewing with people that were my peers. The bosses I have now, I had seen them out, at Walmart, on the floor, in the office regularly. And now I was trying to build that relationship with them to show I could do this job. And sometimes it's scarier to talk about yourself to people than strangers. So totally. that was very nerve-wracking for me, having to talk to people that I would consider mentors even too, just to be like, I can do this job. I need you to trust me. I need you to believe in me, but I need to believe in myself too. So that I think why it's so, interviewing in general is scary, but when it's with people that there's almost, I think, like another layer to it where you feel like you have something more to lose because you're scared they're going to think of you that way if it doesn't go well.
Totally. And then you see them also if you potentially don't get it.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Thank you guys so much for listening so far. If you are enjoying this episode, which how could you not be, please spread the word of what's next. You can text, Insta DM, email, carrier pigeon, whatever method floats your boat. But please share the link to this episode, or any of my episodes for that matter, with anyone you think might be interested. I am trying to grow a business here, so any help would be much appreciated. You guys are the best. Enjoy the rest of the episode. I want to now turn briefly to your journey to where you are now.
Sure.
I know we've touched upon it, but starting with, what was your first exposure to the media world, to advertising? Like, how did you even know that this world existed?
Yeah. When I was in college, I remember my major was public relations. I always wanted to be in communications. And when I declared my major as public relations, you have to take a subset of all of these PR type of classes. And one of them I remember taking, I can't remember the exact name of it, but one of the projects we had to do was essentially, I think it was like a part of a marketing class I took. We had to build out a social media campaign for a local brand. And we worked in a team and basically had to build out a media strategy for how we could promote this little brand and get people to, learn more about it, buy the brand. I think it was like a local soap brand too. And that I just thought was a lot of fun. I always too, I didn't grow up with social media. I feel like I got into social media maybe when I was in late middle school and high school. That's when Facebook and Instagram came out. And I think I was always exposed to advertising in some way, but I always just thought it was fun. And then when I actually got to do it myself in college, I loved that even more, and kind of getting to think more about the strategy piece was even more interesting to me, to say, okay, who are the type of people that might buy this product? Who are the type of people that might not even be thinking about this product, but might need a type of product like this in the long haul? And getting to know the owner, of course, was a big thing. He knew his brand in and out better than anybody else. So it was really learning how to listen and hear him and what his wants and needs were. And then doing that with, again, a team was a lot of fun, because there's always just brainstorming, and then we had to do a big presentation to the rest of the class. And that, I think, just sparked my interest. And then from there I joined, we had a marketing team at the housing facility I lived in, and I joined that, and I helped do promotions of the housing facility. I joined the marketing department for Penn State Athletics. So then I worked in the marketing on the marketing team, where we would support all the sports and try to promote people to come to the games and stuff like that. And I just thought this isn't maybe the best thing to say, but I thought it was a lot of fun. And I started to develop a passion for it, where I was like, I could see myself doing this post-college and finding a job doing it. And media is a lot of fun, but it's definitely, I would say, it's a challenge because just because something is fun, that doesn't mean that like everybody can do it. So I feel like I had to also, hunker down and really understand, like, there's so many, like, when you run media campaigns, all of the media metrics that go into it, and thinking of, I don't want to need to riddle them off to you because it's probably very confusing, because it confuses me still. But what drives performance in these marketing campaigns, and how to prove out success and get, again, clients to trust you that you know what you're doing. That's the other part of it, when it gets like a little bit more math and science versus arts part of it. Doing these flashy advertising campaigns. All right, well, show me the sales that I made and the media and all the things that are working with it. So it's the other part of it that I think I didn't love about it, but it's part of the job, and I've learned to like it, because if data is driving results, then you have like a great story to tell your client.
It's amazing to see and to hear about the connection between those two, that this role in this world can be so data driven and so creative at the same time, and one is pushing the other in so many different ways.
Yeah.
I also noticed in my research that you did a couple internships in college.
Yeah.
How helpful do you think those internships were? Did you enjoy them? And how helpful do you think they were in terms of getting you your first job after college?
That was actually the first thing that came to mind when you were asking how helpful I thought they were, is they're going to be what helps you partially land a job. You want to show that you tried to take interest in something that, maybe was a part of the degree that you got, or even if it's outside of the degree that you got, you went out and you tried something, and you worked either with a team or with a single person, and it was dedicated to, learning more and trying to, like, again, it's like a little mini job. Sometimes it's paid and sometimes it's not. But throwing yourself into the field and actually like learning off the cuff. I feel, yes, I definitely had a few internships, and this is why I'm like, I have to go back and look at my LinkedIn because it's been so long. But I definitely would say they are important, because that gives you like I would say the most realistic opportunity of what your career or what the type of job you get post-college might look like. And I know too, when I was interviewing for businesses, the types of jobs that I was doing in the summer when I was at college, they weren't always related to my degree. I used to paint gas meters in the summer when I was in college, and that was not something that was going to translate to, it was a whole other story. But like, that wasn't going to crazy. The most random job in the world, but that's not going to translate to me trying to get a job at a search agency. So
right.
I really had to focus during the school year on doing more than just going to classes and getting good grades. I think it shows that you're going the extra mile to push yourself, learn a little bit more. And I really need to look at like all the internships I've had, because it's been a minute. Oh, I worked at a radio. I was an intern. Again, that was in communications. I wanted to learn, how to talk to people, how to engage with people off the cuff. We would do tons of marketing events, promoting on social media, all of that stuff, I would say. And on top of the other ones I did, I think they help you become a more well-rounded person. Hopefully a lot of internships that people get to do either get to involve working with other people too. And again, this is just media, so I'm sure it's different from other industries, but I loved those internships, and I think I built a lot of good people skills off of them. I think that also helps build confidence when you are going into interviews. Plus, too, that I think it beefs up your resume. It shows that you're doing multiple things. Again, besides saying, I got the diploma, I'm ready for this. You're taking those skills from outside the class and putting them into the like real work. So oh my gosh, I'm having nostalgia now looking at some of these things. I'm like, it's been a minute. But I loved them all.
I'm glad I could provide this nostalgia to you for your own career.
I was like, what have I done? It's been so long.
So then we've touched upon how you worked at an agency. You obviously didn't stay at an agency long term, but would you say it's necessary to be at an agency? And for those who kind of know that it's just a step that you might have to take, what would you advise them to like get out of it in order to use it to their best advantage? Yeah.
So prior to Walmart, I was at that small little one that I had mentioned in Philly. And then I got my first job in New York was at an agency. And I I don't think I would be where I am today if I didn't have that agency job. The great thing about agencies, and maybe this is known across, I would say, like the media industry, they whoop you into shape. You are going to get your butt kicked because clients are super demanding. The teams that you work on are super demanding, and you're doing a lot of work. I remember I would sometimes be so exhausted and tired, and I would just want to go home at 6:30, and I couldn't because I had so much work to do. And I loved that I worked on a team, but there was a lot of asks. And I remember, and this is why I'm like so grateful I had that job. Me and the coworkers that I, worked with at the time, we are still friends to this day, and we joke about it where it was like, we had to be miserable together to get through that job. But that's because we were working so hard and just thirsty to learn about media, trying to get good at it. It was very much like a work hard, play hard environment where the fun thing when you work in media is, if you do your job and if you make clients happy, sometimes you get, I don't do this anymore, but taken out to dinner or go to a Broadway show. It's definitely very rewarding. And you get to meet so many different types of personalities and work with different brands, I would say too. When you work at a media agency, a lot of times you're working with a lot of brands that want to just do like massive awareness campaigns, and they are focused on TV. They're doing social media. And then sometimes you're working with smaller brands who don't have those budgets and they just want to focus on display advertising. So you definitely get to work across a few different like buckets, I would say, which is kind of going back to these brands have different buckets of spend that they want to, advertise. And when I was at an agency, we touched so much and it was just super hectic. And I remember, I will say, I don't know if times have changed, but you definitely don't make as much money. I couldn't afford to like live in New York when I first graduated. I had to stay at home and do that commute every day, which again, I think helped shape me and makes me appreciate more that I live in the city.
Where's home? Where
were you New Jersey, not far. But it was like,
I was like,
yeah, I was commuting. I took a plane to work every day. No.
I mean, some people do it. So yeah. I don't know.
No, I mean, my day started, I was up at 4:30. I had to be on a bus by, I think 5:30. And then I wouldn't get home till 8 sometimes just because of traffic. And I had to be in the office at a certain time and you had to stay till a certain time, which when you're young, you don't care. You're like, okay, I got to do what I got to do. And it is what it is. And
yeah, but got to do what you got to do. 4:30 in the morning is like a whole different
That's
thing.
Why I have bags under my eyes.
No. Oh my gosh. That is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I was just trying to make the bus times honestly work. I don't know if I had to do it that early, but I was also crazy where I'm like, I need to shower every morning and get like, I got all dressed up and did a full face of makeup. And now, I still do those things sometimes. But that was just, I didn't know another world. You just get used to it. But I loved it. And I think it might sound counteractive because sometimes, like, again, it's hard work. I recommend anybody working at an agency if they have the opportunity. You don't have to stay there for 3.5 years the way that I did, but I was able to work my way up. I learned a lot. And I think that's what also helped me land my job at the company that I'm at now, because I think you learn to become a jack of all trades when you work at a media agency or maybe any agency and deal with the grit of, again, a lot of unhappy clients. There's always something going wrong and you just have to be able to like pivot 24/7 and multitask all the time to then handle larger roles. So I'm so grateful for my media agency days, but I'm so happy that I've moved on from them. Who knows? Maybe I'll go back someday. We'll see if I just want to get a little crazy in my career. But I think they're important for people, especially when you're young and you're just thirsty and hungry and you want to like try something. Highly recommend.
I know everyone's career obviously looks different and there's so many different ways you can navigate this like media advertising career. But like, has there been something that's kind of driven you in every choice that you've made? Or are you looking for more opportunities to always learn? Or are you driving towards some sort of goal that you have? Like, what's been the driving force in your career so far?
The not so like inspirational piece of it is I love Manhattan. And in order for me to live here, I have to work hard. So at the end of the day, like it's like a twofold thing for me where I need to have like a career that I feel secure in, that I can help pay my bills so that I can, afford to live where I live. And New York, I believe, is, the greatest city in the world for that aspect, where there are so many options. There's so many ways that, if one job doesn't work out, you can find another. You just have to like push yourself and try, especially now with so many like people are building out their own businesses and influencers are doing like their own jobs. And I think that's very, unique to a big city like New York, where you can pivot and change at any time. Outside of, having bills to pay, I think a North Star for me, and this actually might be more sentimental. My mom worked in sales her entire life. She didn't work in media. She's now retired. She was a designer for like bathrooms and kitchens for a really large plumbing supply company. But her entire, career ever since before I was born, she was in sales. And I just remember growing up thinking she's like one of the most hardworking people, which I think now she regrets that she had to prioritize work so much when she couldn't be there all the time for my sister and I when we were little. But I still look at her as such a role model just because I know how hard of a worker she was, how dedicated she was. And she was just so good at building relationships with people. And I see myself now, and if I think back to like, what she might have been doing when she was 30, and she retired when she was, I think, like 55-ish, maybe a little later, how much more of a career I have and how much better at my job I can get if I just continue to think of her and, what would my mom do in this situation, which might sound like silly.
Not at all. That's adorable.
She just is somebody that I inspire to be like. And a lot of that I think is more of like a soft skill where it comes to just like building those relationships. Yes, data is very heavy in the world that I work in, but I want to learn how to talk to people, make them feel comfortable, build that trust, because that also helps me feel more confident too, which again is so important to me in the role that I have now. So I think a lot of it is to just North Star inspiration, trying to be someone like my mom who was so kick-ass at her job, and then make money. So twofold.
No, I mean, two excellent reasons. I like that is so fair. I love that. Well, it is almost time to wrap up, but before we do, I want to get some more advice from you.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone who is trying to just get their first foot in the industry?
First, I would say when I'm thinking of advice, it's, okay, make sure, again, this might be twofold, make sure that your resume is up to date, list as many like relevant things as possible, because when you're going to apply to jobs, you want to make sure that it's tailored to whatever you're submitting to that type of role. I learned that this year, where some people just send in the same resume to every job they're applying to. And I'm like, it matters so much to just pull those keywords from the applications you're looking at and applying that to your resume. It goes a million miles. I would also say too, oh, sorry. How many pieces of advice am I allowed to give?
You're allowed to give as many as you would
like. I don't want to feel like you're like, oh, I asked for one and you're giving me five.
No, please, the more the better.
Okay, one thing that I will say too is, and I don't know if a lot of companies allow this, but I would say if you, again, are making a career switch, or if you are out of college and you're applying for the first time, go on LinkedIn and do some research to the company that you're applying to. Look to see who works at that company, because if you slide into their LinkedIn, even, again, some small companies, if it's the CEO, go for it if it's appropriate, if you think it's appropriate. But so many companies nowadays, you can find anybody and everybody that works in that business. Reach out to them. You have nothing to lose. And I'm a big believer in squeaky wheel gets the oil. You have to raise your hand and try to get in front of people, because you know that you can't be the only person that's probably applying to these jobs or just getting into the workforce. That's what's going to make you stand out. You got to be, feel like I keep saying the same thing. You have to be hungry. And if that's you reaching out, finding an email of somebody, reaching out to them, you're not going to get a response to everything. And that's okay. But you have to make an effort and continue to find people at said place that you're trying to get into to get them to notice you, and forward that resume to the HR person or forward it to the right guy. Because I don't know, that's also the other thing. people that work in my industry, we love to talk so much that we also want to help people. So same thing in my job. I'm like, if somebody reaches out to me via LinkedIn, I'm going to look at your resume. I'm going to see if it's relevant, and I'm going to try to get you in, because that's partially also to how I got into my job. A friend referred me. So I'm a big believer in helping other people, but you got to definitely like have your own back and find as many people as you can that might work at that company that can help move you in.
No, absolutely. I could not agree more. I think the days of just cold applying are gone, like, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, you gotta weave your way in, find people.
You really do. I think, there are just so many talented people out there that they cannot possibly go through all those resumes. You need to ask. And I think that is just kind of the world that we live in. So that's excellent advice. And then what advice would you have for surviving the maybe less fun times in a career? Surviving the 4:30 a.m. wake up calls.
I especially too, when I first joined the sales team, and this again, I joined in like the end of August or September of 2024. It was a little bit of like a rude awakening, because again, I now have a certain number that I need to be achieving and a goal that I have to hit. And the first, I would say, few months were so draining, because I was just trying to figure out this job. I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to find and meet with these clients, some who didn't want to give me the time of day, some who were, constantly asking me questions and had these demands and asks. And I felt a little bit like I was drowning and still not able to hit my goal. I think the biggest piece of advice that was given to me when I was asking people for help was, if you don't say anything, nobody's going to know what's going on. So I had to kind of be like, okay, I got to talk to my manager. Maybe I'm doing something wrong and maybe they can help me, or maybe I'm doing something right and I should be doing more of this. So I think that was like the big thing when I was doing my job for the first few months, is sometimes I can be scared to raise my hand and ask for help, because it's like, I was chosen to do this job. I just have to figure it out. You can do this. Just keep digging. And you sometimes waste so much time trying to figure something out, when if you had just asked for help or a piece of advice, you could have gotten that answer so quickly, or that guidance. So I think that is something I learned in the long haul, that for me, and for anybody, I tell this to anybody, if you're like struggling, trying to figure something out, or, you're doing really good at your job and you just want to get a check-in with somebody, don't be afraid to ask for help, or turn to the person next to you. Or if you have a manager or some sort of tier, hierarchy at your company, ask the person above you for a check-in, because it's also going to help your mental health too, because it's going to bleed sometimes. That both bleed into each other, and you don't want to lose your mental sanity over your job. So
no, completely. I think we so often think that it's not okay to ask for help in your job, because indeed, like you said, you're hired for this, and then you should be able to succeed right off the bat. But it's just impossible to expect someone to do something and know something that they haven't ever seen or experienced before, and will immediately get it afterwards. They'll immediately then know how to do this thing and won't have to ask again. They'll learn, and that's kind of the process. But you have to start the process of actually helping yourself.
Squeaky wheel gets the oil. You gotta raise your hand and ask questions.
Absolutely.
And that's for me the only way that I've been able to learn and apply things to my job.
Yeah, I guess in a similar vein, but maybe kind of zooming out a little bit, what would you say is the best career advice that you've kind of ever been given that you can share with us?
Yes, it's funny, because I received this when I was doing one of my internships at Penn State. I had somebody, I would call him a mentor, somebody that I just was able to learn a lot from, built up that trust with him. He helped me feel more confident as a person. And he gave me this quote. I think the guy's name is Joe Madden. And the quote that he relayed to me was, "Don't let the pressure exceed the pleasure." And that has somehow stuck with me my entire career, and even in life, where what I take away from that is, and this kind of goes with some of the stuff we were talking about, it's going to be hard sometimes. And sometimes you're going to be stressed, and you're going to feel like it's not worth it. And you're going to feel like you're not good at your job. But you have to also sometimes remember that it is just a job at the end of the day, or anything in life is that way. And maybe you're putting too much pressure on yourself, or you're taking this too seriously. And that might actually be holding you back from performing better or doing a better job at whatever it is you're working on. Plus two, while in my going back to that example of, why I do my job, money is so important to me, but it's not the most important thing to me in life. I want to actually love the work that I do that makes me want to show up. I'm naturally a very bubbly and outgoing and personable person, and I try to bring that to work every single day. So if I start to feel like I'm not being that version of myself, then I know something is wrong and I'm not happy. So that quote of don't let the pressure exceed pleasure has somehow taken me throughout my entire career and has helped me make pivotal changes of I need to go somewhere else, or I'm not, growing the way I want to grow, or I just don't feel happy or excited or motivated in this certain time or position. What can I do differently? What can I change or something? How can I fix this? So maybe that's
I love
something that people can take away.
I wish I honestly for my own life have had that quote.
Yeah,
before.
I try to apply it in my personal life too.
Yeah,
sometimes I forget, but it's a little quote that stuck with me. So
yeah. Finally, one more question for you before we wrap up. For you, Britt, what's next?
Oh boy, what's next? Okay. So for talking career, I really, really want to get even better at my job. I, want to hit my quota and my goal. Of course, those are like short-term goals. I think if we're thinking about long-term goals, I just started this role, but I don't see myself leaving Walmart anytime soon. I love the company. I love what we stand for. Again, I'm going to do a little plug here, really trying to help our customers live better lives, driving those everyday low prices. I grew up shopping at Walmart, so I feel extremely honored that I now get to work for this company, and seeing how much we've grown is something I take a lot of joy in, and being a part of that story.
Yeah.
So I think what's next is I want to get, first nail down the role that I'm in, continue to grow and get better at it, be challenged even more. I would love to get promoted at some point into a senior partner manager, maybe in the next 2 years, if that's what I want in 2 years. We'll see. But what's next is survive this week with a smile on my face, grow and get really good at this job in the next few months. And hopefully I stay where I am. I like where I am. I don't want to go anywhere yet, but things change all the time. So that's, I guess, what's next for now.
Yeah, I think that is so real, so relatable. I feel that it's so great to hear when you just want to learn. You want to keep learning at your job, keep growing at your job and doing better. That I feel really shows that you are indeed on a path that you love. And so that's so lovely to see. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on What's Next and for taking the time to chat and tell your story. You have hit us with some great advice and with some excellent knowledge, and I really appreciate your time.
No, thank you so much, Lacey. I was so nervous. I will say I was nervous about this too. I was I don't know how to talk about myself, especially career. Sometimes you just black out at work and you're I don't even know what I do.
Totally. What did I do today? I have no idea.
But you made this so fun and engaging, and again, a little bit of nostalgia too, just thinking about my journey. So I'm happy that I got to talk a little bit more about it, and hopefully whoever listens and engages, everybody should listen and follow.
Thank you.
Plug that they get something out of this, even if it's a laugh. So that still matters.
No, totally. I am sure they will. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.